You are listening to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, where you discover management insights and strategies for your successful dental practice. There are also interviews with key people in the industry who have advice and services to help you and your team achieve great success. Welcome to this episode of the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast. And I am speaking to two of the three founders of a product called Zavy 360, which is a dental practice management system. And I'm thrilled about this. I love seeing all of these new technologies coming out on the market to help dental practices be more successful. And it seems like Zavy 360 have some features in it which really do make them quite different from what's out there already. Welcome, Gerald, Chow, and Scott, Rotton.
Thank you, Julie.
Hello. Thank you.
It's so terrific to have you both here. We've already had a bit of a demo of Zavy 360 and it looks absolutely fantastic. But first of all, Scott, for yourself, tell us about how Zavy 360 started. How long has it been around for?
Yeah, so it started, the sort of inception was about 6 years ago. We were reselling a medical software to doctors, and then as a trio, myself, Gerald, and Christopher Ho, we decided that the things that were on the market weren't quite where they needed to be, and so we decided to create our own. I'm sure Gerald will give you a better sort of background about it because he hired me for an IT company. And we took it from there, really.
And Gerald, have either of you, or any three of you, had dental experience, or is it medical experience? What brought you to it?
No, like everything in my life, everything seems to happen by accident. So I hired Scott. Little did I know that he has, wealth of experience in medical. And then next thing you know, after I hired him, sponsored his visa to work in Sydney. His UK company contacted us and asked if we want to distribute their practice management software. And I thought, that's a good idea to get into a new market. And we went with dental software because it was easy to get to the industry, less red tapes. And it was really well received. But unfortunately, this particular UK product is one of those traditional server-based system. But along the way, we met up with Christopher Ho, who loves what Scott and I are doing. We always sort of want to do something different, innovative. So really, it was just a simple questions of how hard is it to create our own software. And so we started the initial process of building a prototype, and then raised money to build an MVP, and then got more dentists along. And now it's been a really interesting journey.
That is so fantastic. And when did you actually launch the product out onto the market?
We actually launched our product back during COVID. We created the initial base system. And what's interesting about Zavy is that we wanted to create something really flexible, because when we interviewed all the different dentists, we realized that there seems to be no one way of doing things. But unfortunately, all the existing systems seem to set in their own ways. And we thought, well, if it's going to take us a long time to build a dental practice management system, why don't we create a two-in-one? Essentially, we've created a base system, a base practice management software that any allied health, any health professionals can use the base system for their patient records, billing, booking, etc. And then we created dental on top of it. So what we've created is a really flexible solution that any clinics, whether they are small or large, can sort of run with it. And we've created the system so that there's multiple way of doing things, so we don't limit or restrict our users. And so far, the best feedback we've received is how flexible and intuitive we are compared to any of the other systems out there.
Fantastic. And it really does need to be intuitive, doesn't it? Within the industry, I don't know how many dental software programs there are in Australia so far, but the number seems to be growing all the time. And so we've got a lot of changeover of staff from one location to another. And as newer software companies come on the market, then it's possibly creating a complex space out there for everyone who is actually utilising the dental software programs. But I know with my work, I mean, I grew up using very basic dental software programs back with it's a black screen and a green flashing dot. That's how old I am. That was a long time ago. And fast forward to now, where I, in my work now as a consultant and trainer, etc., I tap into so many different software programs. And for a customer relation program, I use Infusionsoft, for example. And you don't need to sit down with many of these and have this very involved training process because it is intuitive and it's very easy to get together the information of how to use it. So it's a little bit different from the traditional kind of dental practice software systems that I'm used to, where you do have to have some very heavy training. It's a steep learning curve while new team members are learning this sort of system. So I'm thrilled that it's intuitive. So tell us about what your people that are on board with it now, your dental practices that have come on board with it, how are they finding that initial user experience?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of my background was going around and training different practices and how to use different dental systems, basically. So we try to, when we're creating the system, for the most part, the modules that people need to be familiar with straight away to get the business done, we try not to sort of break the mold too much. There's already been 30 years worth of refinement in a calendar, for instance, so you don't need to recreate it from the ground up. Or if you're going to do that, we do have like a timeline view, which is not that common in practice management software. So we do have a timeline view, but we still have the original day views and week views that everyone's used to. We've got obviously a slightly different workflow, but it's all sort of straightforward. So things like that are relatively easy to just pick up and go. And there's things in the system that haven't really been attempted before. The way that we do the automatic recalls as more of a hybrid solution. So we try and give people the flexibility to work the way that they've previously been working in their own practice management system, but also give them new opportunities to work in a more modified way wherever possible. That's not always possible because we don't want to create 1,000 different ways to do everything, but we do try and take that into account when we're designing the system. Another thing we try and do, as far as like a design language goes, is a lot of legacy style apps, they will put as much information, buttons, all on one page as humanly possible. So you'll just look at it and you'll be like, wow, where am I supposed to go from here? What am I looking at? Whereas what we try and do is we try and find a balance between what do they need to look at that moment in time and what can be hidden in a drop-down menu or a different screen. And that's something that's ongoing and refining, and we get lots of feedback from our current user base who love the software, but they'll say, oh, can we find a way to tweak this, or can we find a way to tweak that? So it's kind of like an evolution. Every week, every month when we're releasing updates, all of the new features and the new workflows that we're adding in there is from a combination of our experience as an internal company, the users that are using the system, their feedback, and then we sort of blend it together to try and create something that's ultimately easy to use, looks good, but is also very quick to get the job done as well. So that's sort of how we approach it.
That's fantastic, because there certainly is. I mean, I get faced with many different dental practice software systems, being a consultant and going into different practices. The one that I know the best, of course, I go in there, I'm like, woohoo, it's nice and comfortable for me here. And then it's a little bit of searching around in other systems. But even with the system that I've known for many years, from back in, like too many years ago, it's too long ago to even identify. Even with that system, I've used it for such a long time, yet I'll see how somebody else is using the system. I'm like, wow, that's different. I didn't actually realize that function was even there.
Yeah, there's a lot of hidden, especially with the older style systems, because they've had, years, decades worth of development. There's a lot of features in there that most people don't even know exist, and probably a very small percentage of the user base will actually use them. So even when we design the system, because obviously we're relatively new, we're still what we class as a baby in terms of a lifespan of a system. Even though we can do quite a vast amount, we try and look at what's going to be the most beneficial to our users right here and now, and then anything that's not beneficial here and now, we'll sort of put it on the midterm roadmap.
Nice one. Well, can you speak through some of the features of Zavy 360?
Yeah, so it does everything you'd expect from a modern day practice management system. So it's fully cloud based. It integrates with your X-ray machines. It integrates with USB intraoral cameras and USB cameras. It's got a calendar, which is specifically designed for reminders and communication, as well as being very fast to open on the cloud. It's got a built-in CRM. We've got a fully...
Now, if I'm going to pause you there for a second, it's got a built-in CRM. That's very exciting to me. And for dental people out there that don't know what a CRM is, it's a customer relationship management system. And this is something that I discovered, of course, when I became a consultant and had to start getting a list of people together that I harass via email constantly so they buy my services. And that's got a whole journey that you can attach to your communications with your, hot leads and cold leads and all the things. And it is something that I think, gosh, this is really what dental practices need now, because no longer are dental practices not promoting. I mean, back in the day, they wouldn't promote. You'd have a little information ad, we're here if you need us, but it wouldn't be the active marketing that you see out there now. And it has been something that's been missing. If a dental practice wanted to do that, they really did need to, in addition to their dental software system, get an external CRM, upload all their contacts into that, all their patients into that, and communicate with them that way. But with Zavy 360, does it combine the two?
Yes, so the reason we built the CRM into Zavy rather than using an external company is because we've got all the data points already in the system. So we can do things that most CRMs may find it hard to do, which is like, grab the patient's last visit, grab if the patient has an incomplete treatment plan. And we've got all that data already in the system. So all we needed to do was hook that up to a bulk communication system and allow it to email. So we built everything around that communication module, which is very flexible. It's actually based off the note system as well. So the note system, the communication system, the filters are all shared one by one. So we call it an ecosystem. We're a practice management ecosystem and not a practice management system. And that's because anything that we can find value in adding ourselves, instead of relying on an additional plugin to do it, we try and do it internally if it's going to benefit 90% of our customer base, which is the way we sort of look at it. And then we use external integrations for the stuff that benefits the more of the minority.
Exactly. I was just going to add that, a lot of our users who come on board with us, they either have been paying, several $100s extra per month for third-party add-ons, or they complain about spending, every week an extra 2 hours to do a MailChimp export and then do the mail out, whereas our systems, everything's all built in. Everything we build, we count the number of clicks, so everything has to be easy. So, and that's just the beginning, that's
just the beginning. And we're going to hover there
exactly.
for one more moment just to give people a bit of a sense. So what I can do with my CRM, it sounds like you can do with Zavy 360, and this should excite a lot of dental practice managers, receptionists, practice owners out there. I can refine a list of contacts that meet a criteria that I've got in my head and just send communications out to that group. Can you do that within Zavy 360? For example, every patient that hasn't attended here for the past 2 years, we want to try to reactivate them with an email. Is that just a simple search?
Yeah, actually, we've got that automated anyway, but you can also do a search. So you can do a patient filter. So filter anyone that hasn't been in for X amount of time, and then select all bulk communication, and then fire a communication. They'll get an SMS or an email, which a lot of systems don't do. So depending on what their original communication preferences were, they'll get an email or an SMS, and then hopefully you can include an online booking link so they can book straight in online as well, and then they'll hopefully re-engage with you. But we also have the automated recall system, which would have done that automatically for you anyway, because you can keep reaching out to patients who's dropped off via the recall system as well. So there's a couple of ways to do that.
Magnificent. Okay, now I'm happy to move to the next feature.
Yeah, it's been a lot of people really like that part of the system, and they know that when they've been using the system for a while, or if they're coming over from older systems, if we've imported the data in and they've never had that functionality, we're able to sort of look at their existing data, their existing appointments and the future appointments, and actually still run that report even though they've never had that feature in the past. So it's a good way for converted customers to sort of re-engage, even if they've sort of let the customer base drop off a little bit. The other things we've got are the obviously integrated payments via invoicing, so we can integrate with health funds and FPOS modules and machines. We've got our, I mentioned it before, our automated recall system, our referral tracking, a patient source. We've got a lab work tracker where you can track your costs for your lab works. We've got our very flexible reporting system, which allows you to sort of, it's kind of like Excel built into the to Zavy 360, which allows you to export to other systems. If we don't do something that you want it to do, we can still export that data and use it in a different system if you've got permissions. We've got a flexible rostering system where it allows you not just practitioners, but also reception staff and practice managers to have a calendar and use tasks and things to manage their own tasks.
So I want to hover on that one as well. So it's a rostering system. So all your team members' rosters can be all organised within Zavy 360. Tell me a little bit more around that and the tasks. And so if you've got delegated tasks to different team members, they're alerted in some ways. So talk more to that.
Yeah, so there's this is sort of phase one of the rostering system. So this system just allows you to select when staff are supposed to be working, and then you can have an overview for that. We do intend to build on top of the rostering system in the future to potentially do a few more advanced things. But yeah, it's basically just a calendar for all the different staff members, so everyone's on the same page. We do have an alternative way again to do that, because everyone likes to work in a different way now. Some of our clients love putting all the tasks in the calendar. They'll put a little green tick next to it when it's done, and it's there and present. But some of the other staff or other practices like to use the actual built-in task manager. Now, the built-in task manager is just like a little drawer that pops out, similar to, say, a Trello, where you can create a task and then mark it as complete and assign it to multiple staff members. But what we do with the task manager is it's integrated into our automation system. So you can say, if someone doesn't respond to a recall, automatically create a task for the front desk staff to give them a call, and it will assign it to all the staff, and whoever completes it first gets the job done, completes the task, and then it takes it out of the other staff.
It's so beautiful. Oh my God, that sentence alone will excite so many people. Because it's, Gerald, you must have had these conversations with people, because you were at ADX down here in Melbourne. You were heading up there to ADX Brisbane, and we encourage everyone to go along and see you there. But one of the challenging things, we're sending out our recalls. We've got incomplete treatment letters that go out. But then what? Like, what happens if we're not reactivating them? Does anybody get some kind of communication? And often it does come from just man hours putting it in there and trying to find this, that, and the other. But to have something come through to the receptionist, for example, say these are the people to contact this week or this day.
Definitely. When we went back to our original concept, the whole idea is that it has to be fast and it has to automate. Because I've always been playing devil's advocate to the team and said, there's no point copying what all the existing systems are doing, right? You can make it prettier, but what's the point? So really it's about sort of recreating all the essential features that everyone need, but then push the boundary and figure out, okay, how can we save time? How can we help you market better? How can you save you more money? How do we get more patients? How can we, as the practice get busier, the time they spend per patient is limited, because you have 10, 20 people waiting for you. You have limited staff. And so really the automation is key And we know that a lot of our patients now carry a mobile phone. So, doing forms, being able to check things, able to get those reminders is really important.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's becoming fast. The term patient management system is quickly becoming an old term because it's a business management system on top of that as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, continue on with the system, with the features. I keep interrupting you because I keep getting excited. Continue on.
That's all right. Gerald touched on one that I completely forgot. So that was forms. I forgot to mention forms, I think, where we spent a long time actually creating forms and refining it. We originally were going to create something quite basic, just a form builder where you can sign something, bring it back into the system, and it stores in that patient's records. And then we decided we can probably do one better than that. What we want to do is with the forms system, we've got the dynamic fields which dynamically update the patient's information. Pops up with a modal, which is like a pop-up box and says, hey, the patient's updated this information. Do you want to accept the increment changes? But then when we did that, we had to figure out a few different things, really. So the first was security. If you're going to allow someone to push information into your practice management system, then you have to have a way of securing that information. So we added a thing called two-factor authentication, which we use throughout the app. So in our app, we don't necessarily have a standard password like other apps would have. The reason for that is because we found that 80% of users would set a really basic password and allow entry into your system or into at least their patient's records and get their data out, which is a no from us. So we don't even allow that. We use a combination of two-factor authentication, which is a code that gets sent to a secure device, and that code changes every time. So it's very difficult for someone to intercept that and get in. So we created that, and then we realized, if we've already got that area of the site secure, one of the things that patients don't like to do is to re-enter the same information all the time. So we decided that the next iteration that we've just completed is when you go into the form, it will preload the form with all the patient's data. So all they need to do is amend any changes and then resubmit the form. So that saves the patient time and the practice time on both areas. So they're happy to do it, and so are we. And then we just created with the form, we try to make it as flexible as possible. So instead of the standard intake forms, which is one of the main use cases for it, but then we can also look at doing things like treatment consent forms. We can do a welcome video because we can attach videos and multimedia. Why just replicate a paper form when you've got a digital platform? So let's do something digital with it. Let's get some multimedia. Let's get the doctors in front of a camera saying, "Hey, welcome to the practice," and then giving them a bit more of a welcoming message when they first sign up. So there's all these different things, and the way that people are using the forms now, it's kind of like we give them the tools and just see what they build. And we've got some customers that are really smart when it comes to those sorts of things, and they're finding new and inventive ways to use the form system. So that's pretty cool.
I think that's what happens with the further advancements to everything. People have to start thinking outside the box. Stop thinking that your computer program is the thing that restricts you. You can start thinking, well, in an ideal world, how would we like to communicate with our patients, and see if the system can actually do that? I love the thought of doing the welcome video along with the new patient form. That's tremendously engaging. The difference between seeing a written word or listening to something to actually seeing someone speaking, it's just extraordinary, as you know. Would that also be good for, is it also possible, for example, the one that I've got in my head is a person's just come in for an extraction and they've got post-operative instructions that they have in their hand that they probably never read. It's been explained to them in the surgery. They've only half listened because their mind is taken up with thoughts of, I'm about to have an extraction, oh my God, and they can't focus on what is being told to them. Could you then send them an electronic version or digital copy of those instructions with a video of one of the team members simply moving through those instructions, and so they are more clear about how to treat themselves after the extraction, for example?
Yeah, exactly what it's for. That's one of the main use cases. So they'll have a video, an educational video. They may also have a written version below it as well, and then you can attach like a signature to say, "Hey, I've seen it. I understand it. Can you please sign here?" And then sign it. Stores in the patient's records, and then that's
glorious. Oh, I love it. Continue on.
Yes, I'm just trying to think of where we got to. Let me see.
I know, I keep interrupting you. It makes
No,
it
that's okay. We've got dashboards. I've completely forgot. We're one of the few
I was going to
management
ask you
systems
about
that has
that.
a
Yeah.
dashboard. Yeah, so you go in when you sign into the system. Depending on the permission level that you've got, you might see, what the payment methods have been used the most, how many new patients have been onboarded, the recall success rate, the recall drop-off rate, how the appointments are comparing this period versus last period. So how many cancellations you've had, how many completed appointments, revenue. So how much money you've made this month or week or day versus yesterday or last week or last month. So there's all these different dashboards, widgets that we've added in there, and we're probably towards the end of this year. We'll probably add a few more in. There's a couple that we're floating around at the minute, just to more advanced ones. Now we've got all the data metrics sort of in place. We've got a couple to finalize. We can start doing some really advanced KPI things. So what we want to try and do is gamify the practitioner experience, which means we want to try and we want to present to them the data that they've done for a specific period of time, and then encourage them to push themselves further to increase the productivity or increase the workflow or increase the satisfaction of the patients going forward. Different metrics for different staff members and roles, but ultimately that's where we want to go down.
It's such a powerful shift for dental practices. I mean, back when I first became a dental assistant, I'm sure that the owners were having a meeting with their accountants once a year, and that's when they find out how they've gone for the year. And then it moves into, now we're going to start getting all these reports. We've got access to reports now because we're computerized now. And so we're going to track that, and every single month we're going to see how we're tracking along with all those figures. But now this is the kind of live time information that a practice owner and dental practitioner, receptionist, practice manager can have a look at and start being far more responsive, far more quickly, and start to affect change for the end of the year goals.
Yeah, completely. That's the way I think everything's heading. And also, if you're more aware of how you're tracking, and if you're slightly dipping below what we perceive as acceptable or the current baseline, then you're mentally going to make the adjustment straight away rather than having to wait for those end of year or end of month meetings. You can physically do something about it straight away rather than waiting for that timeline. So that's an important thing. We're also looking at more ways to automate as well. So to help practitioners reach those goals, or to help staff reach those goals, instead of spending time doing things that, say, a system can do or an automation can do, free up some time to allow them to achieve the goals. So we do automated day sheets. That's the first thing we put in. So every night we email a summary of each practitioner's current production. We email them the patient that they've seen, any notes that were added onto the appointment, and then we also do that for tomorrow's appointments as well. So we've got mobile clinics coming on board who, they may go out to a regional area and they never know if their internet's going to be great or not. So what we do is we email them a copy of tomorrow's upcoming appointments, include any medical alerts and things like that, all in the day sheet. So if they forget to do it or they haven't downloaded the information, it's in there and it's already synced to the mobile devices. So that's something we're going to sort of elaborate on over the coming months as well. We're going to add a few more cool things in there that we can think of.
Wonderful. Gerald?
I was going to add, Scott, you forgot to mention our, big attraction, a big feature, the charting, mate.
Yeah, I haven't even done charting yet.
How can you not mention the charting?
I completely forget it. That was one of the first things that we created at ADX. So it's kind of like, we've done that already now. Let's move on. But it's still one of the best chartings on the market. So people do love the charting. So what we did with the charting was to create. It was actually quite a difficult task. We were going to create. We wanted to have something really realistic, and the reason for that was we found that patients don't understand what all these little symbols mean on a map. They don't understand a square with a circle inside it with lots of lines coming off it, and they don't understand certain things. So we try to make the charting look like it does in your mouth. So when you're printing out a chart or sending a chart, SMS or email, patients understand what you're trying to show them. The other thing was we again, Gerald mentioned before that we're trying to count clicks, or we're trying to reduce the amount of clicks it takes to do a certain task. Now, some parts of the system we intentionally make it very clicky to guide. So we do like a step-by-step process. It tends to be around the setup area. Because you do it once, we don't mind allowing you to have a few clicks to create a communication template or create a certain template. But when it comes to treatment planning, we sort of break the rules a little bit, and we put a fair bit of information on screen at once, purely because we want all of the UI, or we want all of the actions to be there. So when you're doing things that are a time, you need to be very time efficient, like the treatment, like charting and planning. You don't have to click too many times. So in the treatment planner area, we've got on the left-hand side of the screen, we have like charting actions, we have tooth properties, we have treatment planning and conditions all rolled into one. A lot of systems will have, say, a separate charting area or base chart area and a separate treatment planner area. We decided to put all that into one because we can find ways to reduce the amount of clicks it takes to create those complex treatment plans. We built in a preset system where it automatically assigns different treatment items into appointments, which has been done before. But what we do with that system is we allow bulk actions. So we've got a quick select that can, so for instance, I mean, a real life example of this might be, you've got a patient that comes in, you want to mark all the wisdom teeth as missing. So we've got a bulk action to click on all wisdom teeth. You click on that, and then we've got a missing button, which will mark all the teeth as missing. Then you can go around the quadrants. So you could mark a couple of quadrants as you wanted to do a veneer. So you could go in, select the quadrants, press your treatment preset for veneer, and it will assign to all of the individual teeth. It will assign any item codes and the correct appointments for each of those items. So with 2 or 3 clicks, you've done a treatment plan, which may have taken other systems, 20 or 30 different clicks to put it in there. So that was one of the main things we were looking at when we created that chart. We then decided that some people don't like the hybrid charting solution, which is when we look at our chart, a lot of people are used to having the surface shapes, the standard surface shapes with an MOD sort of labels across all of the teeth. And ours, in the hybrid mode, you move your mouse over it and it changes the tooth surface to the actual chart shape. But then we decided to go and allow customers to customize that to work the way the same way that they have been using for the last 30 years. So we allow the system to be very flexible when it comes to charting. We also have a detailed overview screen, which we're one of the first, I think, to have that, where you click on a tooth number and it will pop out a drawer. It will give you the entire history of that tooth. So anything that's ever happened on that tooth, you'll be able to look at it. You'll be able to look at any X-ray images assigned to it. You'll be able to add site-specific notes, which automatically go into the global notes area, and then you'll be able to do advanced treatment planning. And we actually built the treatment charting on a gaming engine, because what we found was that we weren't able to create the look of the chart the way we wanted it to be. It would have been very simplistic. It would have looked similar to, say, everything else that was out there, and that was not the end goal. So we ended up using various different technologies to create the teeth and the chart as it looks today. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting project.
And it looks really realistic. I mean, you can have twisted teeth and tilted teeth and all sorts of things. You can do so much. I remember going through the demo with you. It was fantastic.
Yeah, so we do movement on teeth. We can do movement in millimeters, or you can do movement as a bulk action, just for an indicator, not the actual the amount that it's saying rotated. The other things you can do are obviously the perio chart's built into it as well. So if you've done a chart and let's say you've marked some missing teeth, it will grab that live data, bring it into the perio chart, which looks great when you present that to patients as well. And then, after you've done all that, you can just SMS that to a patient. They can receive it on the mobile and have a flick through it and browse it at their convenience.
Absolutely fantastic. So, Gerald, because most dental practices now, hopefully, are all computerized, every now and again I do hear of ones that aren't, if anyone is wanting to move with Zavy 360, they're probably going to, what do you call it, a transition, integration? No, not integration. What's the word? What's the right word?
Conversion.
Convert.
Yes, data conversion.
Yeah.
So simple.
So what
as
does the
that.
conversion process look like from existing dental software systems that are out there now?
Yeah, definitely. It's quite fun. And when we launched Zavy 360 Dental at the ADX, we were blown away. We were expecting more new clinics, but we were actually starting more existing clinics after the show. So the good and bad news is we end up having to create all the different data conversion from the dental windows, the Oasis, Core Practice, Practica, etc., Dentrix Ascend. We've now built converters, but took us a good couple of months to get them all sorted. But yeah, we've pretty now got that process down packed. So normally what we do is we perform one data extraction out of the existing system. We then convert the data on a staging platform. So our new customers can log on, have a look, and double check before they sign off the process. And once they sign off, then we organize training. We like to organize trainings in multiple sessions, because one thing we notice is that users tend to forget things after the first hour. So we prefer to do multiple sessions and organize different groups as well. And then once everyone's trained up, we then scheduled a cutover date. That's when we perform a final data extraction out of the old system, and then they go into production.
Sounds so simple. Easy peasy.
Yeah, look, building the data conversion was probably the most interesting journey, but I'm just glad that we've now got most of the big ones created now.
So. Yeah, we've got about 80% coverage, I think. So most of so when I say 80% coverage, that's more of the market share of the software covered. So we've got about 3 or 4 different systems that we're still working on, but we managed to really. It took a lot of resources, actually. Like we were expecting to have some of our groundbreaking features up and running for the next ADX, but we've had to delay them slightly just to get the current customer base on board, because there's just so many existing software that we never accounted for, especially the international ones. We never thought that we would need to do this at this point, but yeah, we did. So managed to overcome it. The guys are. All the developers are enjoying seeing the back of the converters, because they like to build new things and not do data stuff, but it is what it is. It's part and parcel of the job.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to do the things we don't enjoy doing so much.
That's right.
And what's your level of support that you provide practices? I mean, it sounds like that people can submit, can you do this, can you do that for future upgrades? And that sort of support's going to be very useful.
Yeah, so we've got a built-in chat app. So what happens is any support queries come through the app. They can ask us general support questions. How do I do this? How do I do that? We've got a system built in which will try and link an article. It will try and decipher what the person's asking and then link a few articles if we don't respond in a minute or so. But our average response time is less than 2 minutes. So one of the staff is probably already responded by the time the systems try to send an article. And then, yeah, they send, we try to be as honest as possible when it comes to feature requests. We'll look at it and we grab all of the data. We try and see what they're trying to do, because sometimes it's not a matter of a feature request. It's that they've got an idea of how to do something in their head that they've probably done from the previous system. And then we try and sort of say, right, so this is the end goal. How do we get to it within Zavy? We'll have a look at it. If it's possible to do it in our current methods or our current workflow, we'll explain to the customers, this is how you do it in our system. Do you like it? And if they prefer a different system, then we'll come up with a solution that works for both parties. create a feature update, a large feature update every single month. Like last month, we added about 100 different features in. And the month before that, we also broke 100 as well. So we've got a rapid development cycle where we have built a whole infrastructure. This is the boring part, but I'll go through it anyway. So we built a whole infrastructure on how to deploy the system to production users in a certain time frame. So that time frame before used to take us many hours, sometimes even days, to get a critical fix out onto the production because of the way that the cloud platform works. So we spent a lot of time building the infrastructure to bring that down to about 8 minutes. So we can get an update out to customers within 8 minutes. Sometimes we'll still push really big features, we'll push them back to a scheduled maintenance. So if anything goes wrong, then we've got time to fix it without it affecting customers. But some things that don't require that level of babysitting, I suppose, when it comes to deploying, we'll just deploy straight away. So we've got a streamlined approach now to getting those updates out there and getting them in the hands of customers and getting their feedback. And then we just make refinements as we go.
Magnificent. I'm so excited by Zavy 360, and because it's a changing world now, and we can look at our computer software programs in a different way in terms of how they can help us be successful as dental practices. I mean, some of the big changes are the elegance of the communications between the practice and the patient, and you can really dress that up and be quite inventive on how you do that, because what we're trying to do, there are so many dental practices and dentists around. You can be wildly successful if you're just that little bit better than everybody else in your area. And this sort of the elegance of the communications can be that little bit. It can be that, gosh, it's just delightful to deal with that dental practice because everything they do seems to have a bow on top. And so that's one element that's enormous for me, a big shift and change to what I've been used to in the past. But also the CRM, the customer relationship management portion of it, all of a sudden you are bringing in a internal marketing process within your dental practice, which you may not have been able to do in the past. You may not have even been exposed to something like that in the past. And it really does change how you can fill your appointment books with patients who are really desiring all of these different treatments, because now they know about them, because they're being told about them. And with that CRM portion of it as well, I wonder how refined those patient database searches are, that you could then start saying, well, everybody in this age group, we're going to promote whitening to them, for example. Is that how the search function could work?
Yeah, exactly. We've got different ideas where we're trying to, I suppose, different systems we're trying to replace, because ultimately some people have already tried to do this with external systems that sometimes they don't have the data entry points, because when you export from an existing system, maybe you don't have what treatment they've had last, or what they're probably most inclined to have next. So we're looking at using AI going forward to try and profile patients to be able to reach out to them. And it benefits the patient as well, because you're not reaching out to them for something that they've got absolutely zero interest in. They're only going to get targeted for stuff that may be beneficial and may end up saving them some money. If you've got a patient that came in, had a consultation for, veneers, and then it was too expensive and they didn't come back in, grab the patient filter, look for the veneer codes, look at if the treatment was incomplete or rejected, send them a discount, 50% off, 25% off, re-engage with them, and give them something of benefit and hopefully get something in return as well. So it's a two-way street, and it benefits both sides of the coin, really.
Yeah, quite
absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think with COVID-19, there's now a real challenge finding good staff. And, you could be a new practice in a suburb, and you're competing with these larger practices who have the resource. So using a smarter system that can automate, save you time, and really keep on top of the communication is the key.
Yeah. And that automation is another point that I've written down as something that's completely changed over the years, to be able to automate, to be able to make more light work for the already busy receptionist and practice manager, and get some of these tasks that can be automated, bring that automation to life, so you can actually start to manage that these other portions of your business in a way like it's like an extra staff member who's just tapping away, getting all these things done. So the automation is another big difference with the dental practice management programs that I've seen come through, but also the tracking and the dashboard, and that is keeping your finger on the pulse of the practice. And it's not just for, pushing people to produce more. We're dealing with dentists. Some dentists are quite happy to have targets and do their best to reach those targets. Sometimes they want those targets just for themselves personally. Other dentists are not interested in that side of things, and they don't need to be interested in that side of things. But what's always useful as a human being is to track where you're at generally. So then if you do start to drop down, you think, what's going on with me at the moment? I wonder what's going on with that. Or you're looking at another dental practitioner who's having major success with their treatment plan conversions, and you can develop what I like to really encourage in dental practice teams, and that is that we're all learning from the master, and we're all the master of something. And so rather than just having the tracking of figures as a way of these are the people that are in inverted commas doing well, and the other ones for some reason aren't doing well because their figures are looking like this. Shifting away from that mindset and instead looking at all of these trackable figures and recognising the strengths of all your different team members, and looking at, for the masters in each particular area, one person might be a master in terms of their hourly rate turnover, but they may not be very good at treatment plan conversion. And so as a team, you are asking those who are getting great results in particular areas, what do you do? How do you do it? Role play it out for us. Show us what you do, because then together we can all get better. We can all consistently improve. And just like I might be a master in one element, I'm going to be asking your advice in another element.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, like all business, I think the initial survival stage is quite doable if you're a good practitioner. But then to really excel and really grow the team and actually, fill the calendar book up, does require, a lot of inspections and reflections on your own performance, and, having those reports ready and easy to produce. And there's definitely a lot of basic systems out there that, these days there's so many tools, but that's the trouble. I have another IT business as well, and hiring people is a challenge, and having all those data points is important as you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're able to give us a bit of a visual demonstration of Zavy 360.
Yeah, so this was the wisdom teeth thing that I was saying, where you do the quick select, say missing, and then I can also do multi-select here, and then say close gap. And then we can also do bulk action conditions. So it will remember where I've clicked, and it will add an abrasion mark on each of these guys here. This was the overview. So we've got MOD and MO, and we can do, and it's smart to know the difference between posterior and anterior. And we can go in and do a restoration in here, and it will add our treatment items to the right hand side of the screen. This is the detailed overview, which is pretty rare to find in modern systems, where you can see all angles of the tooth, and then you can also add in a location notes here, and that timestamps it. You can also navigate through this. So actually some people that use iPads like to use this to navigate around the mouth, because it has a better touch interface. So if you wanted to do, say, a filling on here, we can do this, and then confirm, and it'll go and put a filling in there. So it's easier than clicking on the small surfaces when we're doing it. You can also go back actually at any point in time. So you can, if you made a mistake on the 2-4 abrasion, we can just remove it, and it will take it out from there. We've got layers, so it's kind of like using Photoshop when it comes to the conditions existing in treatment. So depending on the system that people have come from. They're used to having like an existing treatment and an existing conditions and then a separate treatment planner, whereas ours is all rolled into one, and we just use these toggles to turn things off and on. And we also have the perio chart as well. So let me create a perio exam, and it will just grab the live data from there, and it brings it across, and it's super easy to understand. So anything you've added in here will be on the perio chart as well. So there's that. We've got the referrals. So in here you can track all of your referrals. So this is good for the marketing. See where your patients have come from, how much they've spent, and then you can cross-check this with your expenses and how much you're spending on, say, Google AdWords or media, and see if it makes sense to continue advertising down these channels depending on how much the lifetime value of the client brings back. We've also got a advanced report system which allows you to look at practitioner performance, allows you to look at outstanding treatments. So this is like a summary report. We call this like a KPI report. We don't display an awful lot of data really. We just show information that we think is important when comparing practitioner performance. So we've got completed appointments, billable hours, number of patients treated, total invoice, total paid, the rate per day, a breakdown of where the payments come from, which we found is important for doing the reconciliation or the remuneration for the practitioners. And then we've got like a breakdown or a chart breakdown of who's the best performing, and it gives you more of a digestible.
I love a good visual
idea. Exactly, yeah. So you can see here who's got the best rate per hour, who's got the best total paid, total invoiced, rate per day. And all this is customizable. So if you don't want half of this stuff, you can just get rid of, certain things. So we can get rid of all these guys. We can pin certain things to the side. So let's say I wanted to keep the practitioner's name here. I can go pin this to the left. And as I move across, you'll see the practitioner name stays there. So it's kind of like a built-in Excel spreadsheet. You can also do comparisons. So I could say I want to compare Alex and Chris, total invoiced. We'll do a chart, a group chart here, and it gives us a breakdown of the total invoice. So it's very customizable. And then from there, you can right-click and export if you've got the permission level. So we brought this in after the last ADX because we were getting lots of feature requests for people that want different reports. And realistically, all they wanted was the same report in a different way than what we had it. So instead of creating 100 different reports that do exactly the same thing, we just create one report and allow you to customize it to your needs. Fantastic. Really. And that's the same for all reports. So there's that. The form builder, which we built, is pretty easy to use and understand. So you go and you create a form, and you can use one of the, let me go straight to the fields. You can use one of these dynamic fields. So we've got more dynamic fields now than we used to have. We recently changed that. We've added the ability to create custom sections in there. So you can do a section for contact information, a section for medical information, a section for just general niceties, welcome to the practice, put the video in there. And then we've got lots of different field types and signatures and videos, upload fields. We're about to, I can tell you this because we're about to release it, but we're about to convert contacts. Instead of just having a basic contact book like we've got at the minute, like most systems have, contacts are going to be similar to patients, where you'll be able to send a form to a contact. So let's say you've got lots of labs in your practice and you want to send them a lab work form, and they're still using the they're still using the paper-based forms. Without them even onboarding to our system, you can recreate their form in the system and you can live share it between the lab work or the lab and yourselves, and have a live form without them even needing to sign up. So I think that's pretty cool.
That is fantastic. So even within the contacts, you could have the specialist endodontist, prosthodontist, all the other ontists out there, part of your contact list. It's already got the referral form established. So and I suppose as you go into a patient, it will self-populate part of that. You'll put in your own request in there and email it off, and it goes off.
Exactly, yeah. So it's all built in. You don't need to download any apps or anything. It's all just a secure
That's
web
efficiency.
server. So
I love it.
yeah, they don't need to sign up. They don't need to remember a password. All they need is a valid email
And they don't
address or
even
phone
need to
number.
scan the form in, because the minute it's created, it's saved within the patient profile.
Exactly, yeah. But you can upload certain things. So you could upload different images and so on. So with the forms fields here, we've got the upload field, so you can allow them to upload certain things to your record or the patient's record and things. So it's very flexible. That was just another idea that we had after we built this. We thought, well, I saw a message on one of the forums to say, it'd be great if someone could create a lab work form, a digital one. But then we look at all the challenges that go around that, which is, who wants to sign up for a system just to send a lab work form? So if we do it within the system that doesn't require any sign up, there's no barrier of entry. You send it to them, they have the choice of using it, or they can use their old legacy ways. But either way, if they decide to use the legacy way, actually, you can just use the attachment section, drag the form up and attach it to their organization anyway. So if they prefer to use the old style ways, you can just scan it in straight into the system.
Can you give us a quick look at the appointment book as well?
Yeah, of course. So I'll just load this one up. So we've got our appointment book here. We've got session times. This is probably a bit more complicated. So we've got 2 busy practitioners in a week view, but we can go to the day view, which is probably more normal to customers that are coming across from different systems. We've got our background color for block timing or session slots, or every system calls it something different, but ultimately it's just an indication of what is allowed to be booked at that point in time. We've got our quick status here, so we can go in and quickly mark an appointment as complete. And when you mark an appointment as complete, it goes to green. Any fail to attends will go to red. So if I go in here and mark this appointment as missed, or we'll do a late cancellation, and then go back, and it will go and trigger the late cancellation automation. So we've got all that in here as well. We also have our way of doing appointment reminders is quite unique, where we will go. Let me try and show you if this is a demo. This is a demo patient, so it will say SMS failed, but ultimately what will happen is they'll get a link to either via SMS or email. When they click on that link, it opens up a mini web app, and that web app allows you to confirm the appointment, but it also allows you to do other cool things like give them directions to the practice directly from the app. It allows them to add the appointment to their iCalendar, so they get notified before the appointment starts. Awesome. So all different sorts of things that we try to improve the standard ones. You've also got obviously your communication tracking. So if you send a communication from within this appointment, it knows that it was sent from the appointment and it will be linked to it. So if I resend this reminder, although it will fail because it's a demo patient with fake information, you'll see that it appears in here. And then so you can keep a track of every time an appointment's been moved, every time it was put on hold, and it's all contained within here.
Magnificent. And I think that's the thing with these, with new systems, there's just so much stuff in there. You just keep finding new ways of loving it.
Yeah. One last thing that I'll go through, actually, since the last ADX, we rebuilt the note system from the ground up. So we've got our snippets. These snippets used to be confined to the treatment area. So like a treatment template note that would sit there. But what we've done is we've created a universal notes system that fits in all different areas of the system. And what we allow it to do is you can actually create a note type from anywhere in the app. And it will automatically do different things depending on where you created the note from. So for instance, I'm just going to create a note in here, general note. Let's pretend this is an appointment note. So patient called and said, may be late. So we'll save that as a draft, and it will go and add a little note in here. And you can use this as a chat log as well, because you can have multiple notes timestamped by multiple staff in here. So if you work on different days, that's fine. The information's passed between yourselves. Now, if I go to the notes area here, it will be listed under here as a draft note, and that's what we created today. But you can also see that we've got a clinical treatment note in the same area. So we built a unified notes area where we allow we allow staff to quickly navigate to, say, a treatment that was created for this note. So if I wanted to show clinical notes only, it will filter only the clinical information. And then I'm reading about this note and think, oh, actually, I want to see the chart or the plan that I created when I was talking about the note. I can quickly click on the plan area, and it will go and it will open up the plan where this note was created and takes us straight there. So if this was created, there's nothing in here, but if this was created 3 or 4 years ago, and you wanted to quickly browse and look at that plan, you can do. And you can also open a chart that was created for that note as well. So, and it just shows that there was a crown in here. So it's just it's all about reducing the clicks. So previously in another system, I may have had to read the note, look at the date it was created, go to the treatment planner. If there was lots of different treatments created that day, try and filter it down. But with Zavy, you just click on the quick action and it will take you straight there.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
And you two, from the demo that you guys took me through, you can even put a filter on all the notes. So I'm just looking at the clinical notes, or I'm just looking at the admin notes, for example.
Correct. Yeah. So you can filter all of these different types of notes from within here. You can filter the status. So do you want to look at draft notes, lock notes, published notes, the author of the notes? You can, you're not limited to a basic text input. You can also, insert an image in here. So I could go upload an image and then talk about the image in the note. I could pin multiple notes to a patient's profile. So this is a pretty big one, but I'll try and do it anyway. So I can pin that note to the patient's profile, and you can see that the next time I go into the patient's profile, all the notes are listed within here. Any images and attachments would also be included in this area as well.
There's some kind of notes. That's fantastic.
So it's pretty. Most people think notes and think, just a little text box, but there's an awful lot that we've put into it to try and get it to become, as fluid as possible.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if there are listeners out there thinking, oh my God, I need to know more about Zavy 360, what's their best next step?
Yeah, just come to our website, zavy360.com, reach out to us using the bubble at the bottom right-hand corner. We can schedule a demo and we'll throw a challenge out, have a look at our systems, and hands down, we reckon we have the best charting and the best automation.
And that's it. Just do the demo. It doesn't cost you anything. You get to know exactly what the product's all about. Think if it's going to start addressing some of the needs that you thought you had and that you didn't even think you had. But when you start seeing the solutions out there, you think, yeah, I want that in my practice now. Just book a demo. And because there is nothing like being walked through the process to start to really tap into, oh gosh, this is the way that it could change the management of our practice and our patient base.
Exactly. And come see us at the Brisbane ADX, and we'll definitely have specials coming up at end of October, so reach out to us whether you can make it to ADX or not.
Beautiful. Very good. Well, thank you both so very much for sharing your product with us on the Julie Parker Practice Success podcast. I'm absolutely thrilled by all the features and the elegance with which this system can really be incorporated into the patient communications and automation, etc. Thank you, and I wish you wild success. And I do encourage everyone to visit you guys at ADX in Brisbane if you're going along, because you'll have it all there on demo straight away.
Amazing. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Julie.
See you next time. If you enjoyed today's podcast, then you should come along and join the club. The club is a whole library of lunch and learns, with new lunch and learns being produced all the time, that help your dental team gain greater success in your systems, in your team behaviours, in your patient management, in your patient engagement, in their treatment plans. They are usually around half an hour in length, and so team members can sit down, be paid for their lunch break, eat lunch while they're being inspired, and delivered all of these insights and strategies that can be implemented so you all achieve greater levels of success. Also, Amina and I, my buddy from Dental Management Expertise, have a company, Dental Business Mastery, together. And our flagship online 1-year course for dental practice managers and dental practice owners to learn how to very successfully manage your dental practice is available. Head over to dentalbusinessmastery.com.au to find out more information, and has information about any other courses that we've got available. Also, make sure you do jump onto my website, julieparkerpracticesuccess.com.au, and you will see a whole load of free information. There are articles, the blog, downloads, templates, a whole load of things that are designed to help you overcome any specific challenge that you've got going on in your practice at the moment. If you have any suggestions of topics or guests that I can have on the podcast, please let me know. Thanks for listening.